Hey everybody, welcome to today's Feather webinar. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're joining from so we can kind of get the chat going a little bit. I'm going to be talking today about how you can reach more supporters without the total burnout, both on your team in terms of just being overworked and also, you don't want to burn out your audience and your supporters with too many emails or repeating the same strategies and kind of creating that inbox fatigue. So we're going to be talking about digital advertising techniques, and then also some best practices for social media, how you can show up in different ways for particularly younger donors, but all of these tactics apply to anybody who you want to reach online. Overworked in Niagara Falls. Cool. We always have lots of Canadians on these webinars. Love to see it. I'm based in Gainesville, Florida, which is actually where Feather is headquartered, though we're remote, so we're all spread out across the US. For anyone who's just joined, as you can see in the chat, feel free to drop in where you're joining from today. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Lots of DC people too. Family Promise of Grace Harbor on the Southwest Washington State coast. Oh, that sounds beautiful, first of all. Welcome. I have not been to the Pacific Northwest yet, but it's close to the top of my list, which I've been saying for several years now, but I feel like it's going from Florida, it's a big trip, so I keep waiting so I can be sure that I make it worth my while, but I'm excited to go eventually. Seems like the prettiest part of the US to me, I think. TBD, but it is right up my alley. Alrighty. I think we can go ahead and get started. It looks like we've got a good number of people. Let me just see. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So, welcome to anyone who just joined. I'm Isa. We'll be talking today about how you can get in front of as many supporters as you can, get in front of lapsed donors, potential donors, getting in front of the younger generations with tactics and on the channels where they're spending time online. So, we'll be talking about a lot of best practices. Hopefully, this is helpful for you. I know we have a mix today of Feather users and non-Feather users. So hopefully there will be some takeaways regardless of whether you're using the platform. I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that Feather can help with some of these use cases, but these are all things that you should be keeping in mind no matter what marketing platforms you're using, because these are the best ways that you're going to be staying in front of the audience that you're trying to reach. All right, again, I'm Isa Hasty, Senior Manager of Product Positioning here at Feather. All right, so some quick agenda items. We'll be talking about some changes in giving trends over the last couple of years and what that means for you. We'll talk about the younger generations that you might be trying to reach, namely Gen Z and millennials. So some of the characteristics, some of the motivations behind why they give, how they perceive nonprofits, and what you can do to appeal to them and get in front of them in the right ways. I'll talk about some specific tools and channels that can help you get in front of those people in ways that are actually going to drive conversions, drive donations, drive engagement. And so that's another thing that we'll kind of talk about is not all young people are going to be able to give, right? So you want to be making sure you're tailoring your asks to the specific audience members and, offering more than just one way to contribute to your organization. And then we'll talk through some strategy, budget, benchmarks, KPIs, things like that at the end. I will be sending out the deck and the recording tomorrow, so be on the lookout in your email inbox for those. So anything that I go over today here, you can revisit, obviously. And if you have any questions, you'll have my email in the webinar follow-up. So feel free to email me if you have any questions. So let's get into some of the challenges for nonprofits today. So none of this should come as a surprise to you. A lot of your audience members, a lot of people, all of us are experiencing inbox fatigue. A lot of people are just not engaging with their email inbox as much. And so email still does perform very high as a channel for nonprofits in terms of driving engagement, driving conversions. But you cannot count on people seeing every email that you send. And you don't want to miss out on potential engagement, potential conversions because someone didn't see an email, right? So you want to be reaching them in more than one place. Supporters are simply more selective with their time and attention. So we live in a crowded digital space. It's hard to get people to focus on an ad or an email for very long, especially long enough to actually engage with you and do something, pull out their wallet. And so you want to make sure that, you're keeping this in mind, being very strategic about how you're speaking to people. Fewer staff, tighter budgets, higher expectations. So these are probably all things that resonate. Someone already said overworked in the chat. So I know a lot of you are managing as a solo marketer, a small team. It might be the case that you actually don't have a marketing team or a dedicated marketing person. You might be a development person who's actually just doing some marketing on the side. So at Feather, we work with tons of nonprofits. We have a lot of empathy and understanding for the fact that it can be very difficult to know what you need to be doing when it comes to digital marketing, have the actual capacity to be setting up, running, optimizing campaigns. So we're here to try to help with that. But we definitely understand that it can be difficult. So just getting started with even one thing is a good place to start. So hopefully you'll walk away from today with at least one idea of something that you could be doing. There's a lot of pressure to prove impact. So obviously being able to show ROI and show why the budget that you're getting for marketing tools is something that you actually need to keep getting. And so board members, C-suite, they're expecting to see the numbers and the data to back up the decisions that you're making and the tools you're investing in. And so having good ROI reporting and good data to back up your marketing efforts is key to getting more budget for your team. And then there's more channels to manage than ever, and there's no extra hours to do that. So we'll be talking about a lot of those channels today. And I am not trying to encourage anyone to get on channels that you don't feel like you're ready for. I think, it's all about managing your own expectations and making sure that you're not diving too deep into something that you won't be able to maintain, but also still being open to dipping a toe in if you feel like you might be interested in investing in something new, like a new social media channel or a new type of digital advertising campaign. So we'll get into lots of that. And then just a little bit of context here around giving in general. So according to the Giving USA 2024 annual report, we can see, so this came out in 2025, reporting on some 2024 data heading into last year. And we can see that overall charitable giving is continuing to grow. Individual giving is going up, and most other giving sources are increasing rather than decreasing. And giving to all types of organizations, as you can see here, went up that year. And so one of the challenges is that organizations are often relying too much on major donors. So one of the reasons that individual giving went up is because you have a lot of individual major donors that are kind of really building up that amount of money that is coming in. That does not necessarily mean that you're getting in front of sort of new blood or that next generation of donors that's going to keep your organization afloat for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So you want to be, keeping, continuing to do what works for you, right? So don't completely neglect campaigns that are working, and you want to make sure that you're continuing to build relationships with those major donors. Sometimes those major donors can be great for gift match campaigns, simply like helping keep your organization going and kind of providing that padding. But you want to make sure that the majority of what you're getting is coming from many individual donors, right? And trying to get in front of sort of that next generation, that's going to be really important to be appealing to. But the opportunity to get in front of people and drive those donations is shifting. It's not disappearing. So you simply have to kind of adjust where you're showing up and what you're doing. And digital channels make it really easy to reach people in new ways. And so people are still driven to give, but you just have to make sure that you are reaching people in the right places. So that is the theme today, clearly. All right. So what has actually changed? So the younger generation is seeking longer term hands-on involvement with issues that are important. So I think it's kind of like the value systems and the motivations for giving are changing. And so when you're speaking to Gen Z and millennials, you have to kind of tap into value systems and identity based giving, and also understand that, like I said earlier, they might not have a ton of money to give right now, but that does not mean that they can't be a future donor and a current advocate, supporter, evangelist for your cause. Younger people rely heavily on technology, and everybody relies heavily on technology, right? Not just younger people, but everybody who has a smartphone. And so you want to make sure that you are showing up in ways that are going to be mobile friendly, right? You want to create a really easy online process for people to get from an ad, click through to your site, get to a donation form, all of that. So everything needs to be really intuitive and smooth for people. And then people are investing time in looking for trustworthy and transparent nonprofits to support. So we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute, but just in terms of sort of that value shift in terms of why people give, it's not as much about um, sort of status or clout or giving so that your name is on a bench somewhere. It's more about like, what does this organization actually represent? How does it align with my values? Why would I pull my wallet out, especially, when times are tough? Or if I don't have a lot to give, like why would I give to this organization right now? And so that's the question that you're trying to kind of ask yourself when you're thinking about why your donors would give. So I want to talk through a little bit of the characteristics, sort of persona profiles of Gen Z and millennials. We'll talk about what kind of what they have in common if you're trying to sort of do an umbrella catch all, like reach all of them with a campaign or two. And then I think it is important to kind of understand some of the nuanced differences between them. But today the goal is just to say, okay, you need to be on social media, you need to be running digital advertising. Here are some of the ways to do it. So Gen Z and millennial donors focus on they focus on supporting issues rather than organizations. So there's a lack of trust, or there isn't such a degree of trust in institutions and organizations as there once was. And so you have to kind of tap into what the actual substance is of what you do and really lean on that and lead with that. So, younger people also consider themselves active social change agents, tech forward. So, you want to make sure that, again, you're creating a really easy online user experience for people so that you don't have people dropping off because your donation form isn't running smoothly. Um, and then younger generations are more likely to participate in crowdfunding than older people. And so that's another reason to kind of consider some other ways to ask for money, right? And so people are going to trust their peers and their friends more. So if there's ways that you can run campaigns like that, great. But just remembering that that peer-to-peer trust is a lot stronger than the trust that people have for organizations. And of course, like telling your story in a compelling way, you can build trust with individual users online. But sort of at a very baseline level, you're gonna have more success if you can kind of, have more word of mouth and build trust through people, right? Create sort of a community of followers where there's more conversation around the cause. And yeah, and then giving through social media-based events hosted by influencers has also gone up. So it's a really common way that younger people give to charitable causes. And then, so you want to make sure that you are focusing your efforts to tell your story in an impactful way, tell it in a way that's going to actually resonate with people, get online, make sure that your website is mobile friendly. There's plenty of tools that you can use to test your website, make sure that things are running smoothly, test your own workflow. If you send yourself an email and click on the email, send yourself an email from your organization, click on it, go to your donate page, visit a couple other pages, see what the flow is like yourself, just to be sure that there aren't any like very obvious broken things. And then there's plenty of tools that you can use to check for mobile rendering and all of that. So, um, and then, yeah, if you are not already prioritizing these three things, these are where you need to start. But yeah, let's get in a little more detail into these personas. So with millennials. We're looking at the largest population currently in the US. Millennials surpassed baby boomers as the largest generation. So you can't ignore millennials or younger audiences anymore, even if you're relying heavily on, older people, people who have more disposable income, maybe some retired people who just have a lot to give or are planning to leave money for your organization. That's all great, but in terms of the sustainability of your organization and your cause, you want to make sure that you are leaning on millennials and Gen Z. So, age range for millennials is 29 to 44. This actually is probably off by a year, but I will update that. Millennials tend to spend around 6.5 hours online. I know that I spend more than that online. I obviously work in tech, but I feel like a lot of us actually spend quite a bit more than this online. And the typical platforms that millennials are on are Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Millennials prefer long form content, and so there's a lot more sort of appetite for more detailed videos. YouTube is popular, podcast style content, and so you can get in a little bit more depth and detail with longer form content when it comes to this generation. But I think overall, shorter form content is becoming sort of the preferred method of consuming information. For me, I'm a millennial, but I know that I've also kind of gotten on that bandwagon of like, if I can be, if I can get the information more quickly, if I can get it in a 60-second video instead of 20 minutes, I will probably choose that because I can watch more 60-second videos, in that 20-minute period and get more information. So I think there is a tendency toward wanting shorter form content. But when it comes to millennials, they are more likely to read blog articles, longer written case studies, a listicle, a guide, things like that. So if there are any, reasons for you to be producing longer form content like that or videos, there's definitely an audience for that among younger people. And then millennials are more likely to convert through traditional online ads and social media marketing. So that is opposed to Gen Z. So they are more wary of traditional ads and lean more toward that peer-to-peer influencer marketing, social media, and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you're doing a balance of both. Millennials are more likely to respond to the same type of advertising that you might be using for Gen X and baby boomers. Again, there is that wariness of institutions and organizations in general, but we are just more primed, I think, to be responsive to advertising in a way that Gen Z is not. So you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on that. So Gen Z makes up 20.81% of the US population, ranging from 13 to 28 years old. So obviously the bottom half of this is going to have a hard time actually paying your organization much, but there's lots of room here for volunteer opportunities. Kids need volunteer hours at school. So try to get creative with how you can involve the younger half of this age range in whatever work that it is that you're doing, especially locally, right? Partnering with schools, things like that. Gen Z spends at least 10.6 hours online daily and focuses on Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and TikTok. So I think that YouTube is also a millennial platform. I would argue that that kind of overlaps for both. And then Instagram is also very much used by both generations, also Gen X. So I think there's a lot you can do with Instagram. I'm sure a lot of you are already on Instagram. Um, and so we'll talk a little bit today about some of the things that you can do with Meta, in addition to just organic posting and stories. So, Gen Z is also twice as likely to purchase online as millennials. So, again, that's the plug to be as mobile friendly as you possibly can be. So, when it comes to both groups, caring less about status, more about impact, skeptical of institutions, and require transparency. So, you want to try to tell the story of your organization as transparently and honestly as you can, but in a way that is still compelling, right? And still indicates that there's a need. So, using imagery, video content wherever you can. If the work that you do is of a sensitive nature and you can't really show beneficiaries or people that you actually serve, show volunteers working in food pantries or at events, right? Show the people who are giving to your organization, show them behind the scenes. Enjoying their time, right? And to the degree that you can show the impact. So even if it means, sometimes using stock imagery to get a point across visually in an ad or in an email, you can do that. So making sure that you are really getting your story across in a way that does drive sort of an emotional response and builds trust through imagery. I think that that's really important. And then sort of tweaking the way that you talk about things as well. I have a document on this. I didn't include it in these slides, but I will send it as part of the follow-up that kind of walks through some of the ways that you can tweak your messaging, even in really small, simple ways to resonate more with younger people. So, when it comes to environmental organizations, for example, rather than talking about save the planet or save the environment, you might use words like sustainability or things like that, right? When it comes to food insecurity, instead of using words like homeless or feed the hungry, you might talk about equity, food insecurity, things like that. So there's a lot of sort of small things you can tweak, which a lot of you might already kind of be very in tune with that and doing that already. But I have a sort of diagram that I'll send out that I think helps illustrate that idea of revisiting sort of the very premise of your organization and your work and thinking, are we talking about this at the most basic level in a way that's going to resonate with future generations, right? Or are we still kind of using language that's a holdover from another time when it worked really well, when this was the way that people talked about this topic? But maybe isn't going to be resonating as well. So there's always room to revisit every aspect of what you're doing, even the really simple, most sort of fundamental things like your pitch and your mission statement and the way that you word things on your ads and your email subject lines. And those are great places to test language as well. So A/B testing a subject line or some ad copy to see what drives more clicks and what drives more engagement. And then, like I said, younger people have less money than older generations, but they place equal value on other assets like time, social networks, skills, ideas, leadership, things like this. So try to think of ways that you can involve young people as much as possible in your organization to kind of bring them into the fold. And then hopefully one day they will have the means to give, or the whole sort of world of nonprofit work will change in a way where it's not just about donations, but there's other structures in place to kind of help keep your work going with the help of young people and everything that they have to bring to the table. And just an idea, a couple ideas for like sort of swapping things, like we said before. So when it comes to like getting playful with language and getting a little bit more creative, I think this is a really good example. I use it a lot. So this is kind of a typical version of, a donation sort of thermometer that we see, where we see like a certain goal amount and there's like, the amount to goal, right? Instead of something like this, you could play around with how you're sort of measuring the donations and what they equate to. So I really like this example. This is from Team Seas. So Mr. Beast, the YouTube influencer, partnered with Team Seas a couple of years ago to run a campaign to remove trash from the ocean. And so when they were asking, obviously when they reported out on the impact, they didn't talk about dollars raised, at least not, on the main screen. They talked about the number of pounds of trash removed from the ocean. And when they were asking for donations, they said every $1 is one less pound of trash in the ocean. How many pounds of trash would you like to remove from the ocean, right? So I think that that is like a much more emotional appeal, and it immediately kind of makes me think of the value of each dollar, and it makes me want to give more because I obviously would rather remove 20 pounds than 5 pounds from the ocean. But if we're just talking in dollars, it's kind of easier for me to think about like, oh, well, like what does a dollar mean to me? Like how, how much do I need this week versus how much am I able to give? And so just reframing things in a way that's going to make people think about the outcome, I think is a really important thing to do. So this is an obvious, great, really creative way to do that. But think of ways that your organization could do that as well. Um, so if anyone wants to drop any ideas in the chat, I would actually love that. If you're an animal welfare organization and you could think up a way to, equate a dollar amount to a certain number of animals getting fed or spayed and neutered, if you could equate a dollar amount to a number of meals that's going to go to a family or a child, things like that. So I'd love to see a couple of examples if anyone wants to share. Or if you're already doing something like this, right? Just kind of presenting the ask in a way that immediately ties the dollar amount to the outcome and also makes people feel some kind of emotional or moral obligation to give. If no one has anything, that's totally fine, but I would love to. There we go. Anyone use something different from meals for food bank? Yeah, I'd love to hear that because meals is one that I've seen Feels like an obvious one, but break ours down to meals. $1 equals 5 meals. $100 equals 500 meals. Amazing. Yeah, if anyone with food banks or food pantries does anything other than talking about meals, that would be cool to hear as well. Um, yeah, no, I appreciate it, Brock. Time banking organization hour credits instead of money exchanged for services. Yep, cool. Okay, our most recent response card had donation amounts along with what they would fund, how many months of insulin, sending a child to diabetes camp. Okay, love that. Yeah. Just like getting as specific as possible with the deliverable, like what you're actually going to be giving to somebody. Um, and another thing that I actually heard, I went to nonprofit storytelling conference last fall, and one of the speakers there was amazing. He was a keynote speaker named Steve Screen, and he talked a lot about what works and what doesn't when it comes to the language that you're using in ads to get donations. And he said that one of the big things is that when you're talking, it's good to focus on one unit. So like when you're talking about a dollar amount helping feed children, you should try talking about a child. You can A/B test this and see what works, but talk about a family instead of families in our community, a child instead of children in our community, right? So again, test these things. But I thought it was really interesting because when people can kind of conceptualize, one person could help a child, it makes that child feel like a real person, right? It makes a family feel like a real family. It's a lot easier to conceive of one unit versus the sort of vast, endless amount of people that need help. And so uh, I think that that was a really good tidbit, and I would recommend, testing things like that, even just thinking like, how can we word this in a way that's going to make it feel more accessible or feel more real? Because I don't feel like I can help 500 families right now. Even if you tell me that my money is going toward helping 500 families, I know that that means that it's dependent on lots of other people giving. And even if that happens, it's not going to speak to me on that same level as like Issa, could help a family or three families this week. Like that's really powerful. And so definitely keep that in mind. I will try to implement this with support groups for people with chronic illnesses, maybe in hours. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, help one person receive, a certain number of hours in support this month for diabetes or for whatever illness, right? Like I think that's and you can get specific. I mean, I think the thing about ad copy is you have to be concise and you have to be sort of like pack a punch, but you have room there to like say some specific stuff and like make that the big ask, and then all of the details they can click through to the page. And so that's part of it too with impactful digital advertising. When you're doing it the right way, you're using all the space that you have, but you're using it to say sort of one main thing, right? Because just like people are going to relate better to one child or one family than multiple, they're also going to respond better to one ask than a bunch of different information or, like different asks on the same ad or like too much, right? So again, just like we don't want to overload people's inboxes, we also don't want to be showing them ads that have all of the details of the event that you're invited to on a digital ad. You want to put something catchy, catch their eye, get them to click through to a page where they can learn more and hopefully convert. $80 a day for a neurodivergent child to attend a summer camp. Love that. Again, it just feels very real. It's one amount and it's going to change this one child's life in a real way. So yeah, these are all really good. Thank you guys. I'm gonna actually collect these after and put together a list of kind of get a list of these kinds of ideas going because I think this is really great inspiration. All right, I'm going to keep it going, but thank you everyone for dropping these in. I'm going to take a closer look after. All right, and then when it comes to fundraising models and what people are able to give or receptive to, subscription models are obviously very popular. We all have subscriptions to things probably more than we even realize. And so this can be a really great way to get people to give a smaller amount, but give more over time. So recurring donors do give more over time than one-time donors. And so if you can get someone to give $5 or $6 this month and give that every month, that will actually end up equating to more over time on average, especially if they stay with you for many, many years, right? And then consistent updates, you want to make sure that you're feeling or you're making people who are recurring givers feel like they are part of a community. Don't let them kind of slip through and you stop following up with them because they signed up to give every month. You want to make sure that they're one of your most important audiences that you are prioritizing, thanking, showing them impact. Want to automate some of that engagement. Obviously, these aren't things that you need to be doing manually, but you can set up automated engagement email series, right? To stay in front of them after they've given the first time, ask them to, uh, if they give once and then you want them to become a recurring donor, there's ways that you can do sort of a thank you series, engage them to become a recurring donor. If they sign up for that, you want to stay on their radar, continuously show them the impact of things. And so there's lots of ways that you can continue to talk with these people, even if they just have it kind of on a set it and forget it thing with you and they're just giving a certain amount a month, they still want to hear from you. And also when they're going through their, budget at the end of the year or whatever, it's like you don't want to be one of the items that they're gonna cancel, just like we do with, the streaming platforms when we're like, oh, I don't think I need this one actually. So I want to make sure that you're staying on the radar and reminding them of why it's important for them to keep giving even a small amount every month because it adds up. And then again, for focusing on recurring giving, so recurring giving is a huge thing because of this subscription economy. And so you want to, so on average, we're seeing that nonprofits are currently doing sort of a mediocre job at driving recurring giving. So I've heard from a lot of nonprofits that this is often a back burner item. It's kind of a nice to have, it sounds great, but how do you actually get that set up in a way that's going to drive a lot of recurring donors in a way that would actually be meaningful compared to all of the one-time donations that come in or the major donors who are giving you huge amounts, right? So how do you kind of set up a system that's going to have these sort of amounts trickling in every month to give you that padding and that safety net? So again, setting up, one example that I actually really liked that I saw was that one organization that we work with had a gift match campaign going last year at end of year, and they only applied the gift match to people who signed up to become a recurring donor. So there was an option to give to the end of year appeal, and then there was an option to become a recurring donor, and if you said yes to that, your amount would be doubled. And so that's another really cool way to use gift match campaigns. You can do whatever you want with those. I think a lot of the time sometimes there might be stipulations there, but a lot of the time it's just a major donor or someone who's giving you a chunk of money and you can get creative with how you actually use that. And so splitting it up into multiple campaigns, maybe you want to use half of it for one campaign, half for another, or you want to only apply the gift match to specific donors, right? So in this case, applying it to people who sign up to be recurring donors. So that's, I think, a really cool way to use a gift match campaign and encourage some recurring donations. All right, let's get into the specific tools and channels that you can use to reach people. So let's pause and do a little read of the room here. So what are you currently doing to reach new people and grow your audience? I know this is kind of a very open-ended question, but we're going to get into some specific audience acquisition campaign types. And so I want to just see where you all are at. I'm sure social media is a big one. Events probably are a big one. But just drop in the chat some of the ways that you're getting in front of net new people who've never heard of you before. All right, Carmen, that's what I want to hear. A plus. Word of mouth, engagement at events. Yep. Local newspaper. Okay, cool. Rusty, when you're putting ads in the newspaper, are you using tracked links so you can be sure that you're tracking um, web traffic that comes from those ads? Social media and ads across platforms, email series, newsletters. Wonderful. Yeah, Chantal, I feel like the connections are often you have to rely on people in your space or in your organization who are likely to have those connections. And so board members, committee members are great places to start in terms of just getting like sponsorships as well. Um, Oh, okay, Rusty. Okay, cool. You're actually helping local newspapers develop community donation programs. Interesting. Okay. Um, Brianna, I feel you. Okay. Glad to see a lot of digital ads in here. Clothing merch. Okay, cool. Okay. Lots of good stuff. It's a good mix of things. Okay, cool to see that you're posting in Reddit. We've done some, we've dabbled in Reddit at Feather actually too. Our marketing team has, but also ran free virtual learning events. Okay, awesome. Yeah, providing free content to kind of bring people into the fold is great because people are a lot more likely to engage with a free webinar, free learning series than a paid one. That's another thing that differentiates younger people from older people. I think there was more of an emphasis on paying to become a member, paying to have access to an online resource, and that is simply not as prevalent. So whenever you can offer something for free that's going to bring someone in to hopefully then support you or give you money, I encourage that for sure. Google AdWords, cool. Um, Webinars. All right, awesome. This is all good stuff. Quora, okay, cool. Um, Okay, so a lot of you might be doing a lot of what I'm going to talk about, but I just want to kind of get into the weeds on the different types of digital ad campaigns you can run to reach new people. So, geofencing is one of the ways that you can do this. So, this is basically drawing a digital fence around a specific physical location. So, if people are going to be at an event and you want to get in front of those people, you can geofence the venue of that event and then serve ads to people who are there. You can do this historical geofencing, which means that you can do this retroactively for people who were in a specific physical location in the past. So this might be, competing events. For member-based organizations or associations, you can think about geofencing workplaces, company headquarters, career fairs, schools, college campuses, things like that, where you're trying to get people who are in your space or in your industry to visit your website. Schools might be another place you can get in front of older kids, parents of children, shopping centers. So presumably people who are shopping or at sporting events or at, golfing events, things like that are going to have some money to give. You can geofence higher income neighborhoods, so high income areas in your community. I see a lot of nonprofits doing that. So if you kind of have a sense of, where the high income neighborhoods are, and you can literally just draw a fence around that and serve ads to people when they're in the comfort of their home, sitting on their couch, browsing on social media, browsing the web. They will see ads for your organization and, they have money. So all right, so you can also target people based on who they are. So you can get in front of completely new people based on age, gender, education, income, their actual purchase history, online behaviors, things like this. So we call this affinity targeting in Feather. And you're basically pulling third-party data. We partner with providers that can give us lists of new people, and you might have some people that you've already gotten in front of, but this is going to be in some cases, millions, tens of millions of new people who might be interested in your cause based on these filters. So the goal is to really narrow down who you're targeting. You don't want to just be putting feelers out in every direction, but you can get very specific and kind of layer on these different segments to create a very niche affinity audience that you can put your ads in front of. And so, for example, you can get in front of parents who are between 28 and 43 years old and have 100K or more household income, right? So you can get very specific with exactly the persona that you're trying to target. And then I'm actually going to really quickly drop a link to a webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago with my colleague Brock. And this goes into detail. It's a 30-minute webinar, so it's a little shorter, but if you want to watch that on demand, I just linked that in the chat. If you want to just open it in another tab and potentially watch that later if you didn't attend, but that talks all about affinity targeting in depth. And he and I are going to be doing more of those sort of in-depth webinars about how you can use Feather specifically to do a lot of these things. So if you have questions about affinity targeting, watch that webinar and then feel free to follow up with me, or if you're a customer, follow up with your CSM. But yeah, this is a great way to get in front of completely new people who've never heard about you, never been to your website. Um, Chris, Oh, you know what? Sorry about that. Thank you. I have my setting to only message the panelists, and there are none of those. So I was just talking to myself. Should You should be able to see it now. Um, okay. And then you can also target by search terms. You see the link, right? It looks like it went through, but I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. Awesome. You can target by search terms. So somebody earlier mentioned that they're doing Google Ads, so that's wonderful. This is a different version of targeting by search terms. So with Google Ads, you are trying to show up as the sponsored result. So these are text-only ads that show up at the top of the search page, right? So when people Google something, if they Google something relevant to your organization, if you're using Google Ads and you're bidding for those keywords, you might show up in that sponsored result at the top, right? Or one of those sponsored results. Oftentimes you won't show up. Sometimes you will. That doesn't mean that somebody's going to click on it and go to your site. Or even if they do click on it, it doesn't mean that they're going to convert, right? They might click, they might browse around and then leave. And so you want to make sure that you're also showing up with ads after they leave that search engine page. So um, search keyword targeting, which is what we call it in Feather. It's also called CRM, search keyword targeting. This is used to basically show ads to people based on terms that they searched in the past, right? So it might be the recent past, it might be a few days ago, but you're trying to kind of stay in front of people because they indicated interest and not just rely on showing up in the first place in those sponsored results on Google and them clicking on it and converting. So you can kind of use, if you are doing Google Ads already, you can usually use that list of keywords as a starting point for what you want to be showing up for when it comes to search keyword. Um, and so that's usually pretty similar. There's a lot of overlap there. You know, if you're bidding for keywords on Google, it's going to be similar keywords that people would be searching for that you want to show them ads after. And so here are just some examples of some of the keyword phrases that you might be, trying to bid for, and you're showing display ads. So just like with geofencing, with affinity targeting, retargeting, this campaign type as well, you're showing up with ads, display ads. So they're showing up in like the top banner ads or side ads, things like that. Sometimes it's a box, like square-shaped ad, and these are going to be showing up as people are browsing the web. So again, this is a very personalized way to show up for people because not only are you showing up based on things that they've done or based on information about them, but you're showing up in their personalized journey, right, online. So they're going from Facebook to a recipe website to maybe the Weather Channel to a news website, and you are potentially showing up in all of those places. That journey is going to look very different from the next potential donor, right? And so you are completely sort of blending into their online journey in a way that's going to be seamless. They're expecting to see ads. And so again, it's just about really standing out, using the right copy, using the right visuals, creating ads that are visually engaging and are going to drive clicks. But yeah, this is a way to show up based on things that people have searched for that you deem relevant for your organization. All right. And another quick question. What are you doing to re-engage lapsed donors or members? I have a couple of things that you can do here, but I just want to get a sense of any tactics that you're using to actually get back in front of people who have maybe donated in the past. Maybe they were a member and they have churned. Maybe it's somebody who has visited your website multiple times over the months, over the years, but they haven't actually converted in some way, but you know that they know about you. So what are some of the ways that you all are re-engaging people? Donor appreciation events. That's great. Do you mostly do email invites for that? Are you running ads to target those people and invite them to the events as well? Social media, just curious where you're reaching those past donors. Okay, yeah. Good old snail mail. Top donor from our annual fundraiser. We invite them to a event. Okay, cool. Let's see. Targeting via Feather, personal emails, marketing emails. Wonderful, Leanne. Um, Elliot, I'm not sure about the average retention rate for new donors. You mean in terms of Recurring donors or getting a past donor to donate again one time? Either way, I don't know the specific answer, but yeah, I can look that up after and try to get an answer while we're on here. If not, I'll follow up. Just did a letter campaign with some of the stuff we've been doing to hopefully encourage them to donate, knowing their money went to a new program development. Okay. Cool. And just a reminder to anyone in here who's talking about snail mail, direct mail, posters, flyers, things like that. Make sure that you are using those tracking links. And so Feather offers a way to do this. It's called tracked links. You literally just generate a customized little URL, a piece that you add to the end of the URL. So wherever you put an ad, you can use a QR code or literally link the ad to that specific custom URL so that when you're getting traffic to that page, and you can see that URL, you know that they came from that ad. They came from that direct mail piece, that invite, that flyer. So tracking everything is key. And it's actually really, really easy to do. So you want to make sure that you're not forgetting that piece because there's nothing worse than kind of being like, all right, well, we sent out the stuff, we put flyers around town, we got some people to show up, we got some donations, but like we're not really tracking it. And that's the last thing leadership wants to hear. So make sure you're using tracking codes everywhere. Um, okay. Cool. Alrighty. So an important thing to keep in mind is that your best prospects already know you. So this is going to be past donors, past members, if you're a member-based org, event attendees, right? So people who've shown up in person to galas, 5Ks, things like that. Website visitors. So again, this doesn't necessarily mean that they've donated, but it does mean that they've been to your website. So they know something, right? They clicked on an ad that they saw on Instagram and went to your website to learn more. They might have, searched for something online, you showed up in Google Ads, they clicked through to your homepage or your About Us page. So this is a very kind of like broad category of people, but anyone who's been to your website, you can assume that they're warmer than someone who's never been to your website, never heard of you. And so these are the people that you want to make sure that you are staying in front of, prioritizing, right? And so getting in front of new people is important and great for the sustainability of your org, but making sure that you're staying in front of these people is what's going to drive kind of that recurring support. So CRM retargeting is one way to do this. We call it email mapping in Feather. For any users on here, email mapping is what we're talking about. And this basically uses the data in your CRM. So if you have email lists from past events, you have emails from people signing up for your newsletter, right? Subscribing. If they've donated, they've obviously given their email on a donation form. So you have tons of emails in your CRM. It's not always easy to know what to do with them, but one easy place to start is to say, okay, with anyone whose email we have, we can reach them with ads because we have their email. So email mapping is what we call it in Feather, but it's a little deceiving because no emails are actually sent. You're simply using the email address as the unique identifier to then match it with a device and then serve ads on that device, okay? So anyone whose email you have, you can serve them ads. Again, these display ads like we've seen in all of these other campaign types. Again, to just kind of really create that surround sound awareness and marketing so they're not just seeing you in the inbox. Because if you have their email, you're probably emailing them, but you want to make sure that you are also serving them ads as well. And this can be a great way to serve ads to existing, like if you are an association and you have current members who haven't been to your website in a while, you can't retarget them, right? And so you have to reach them some other way. So in addition to emailing them, you can also serve them ads through a CRM retargeting campaign. Hopefully they'll click through one, especially if it's something like renew your membership or like log into your member portal, something to bring them to your site and then you recookie them and then you can serve them ads through retargeting based on whatever they're doing on your website. So sometimes it's just about getting people back to your site and then you can do more. But CRM retargeting is a really good place to start if you have just a huge database of emails from all kinds of places and you're not really sure what to do. And again, segmentation is important. You want to make sure that you're not serving all of those people the same ads. It needs to be dependent on how they engage with you, who they are. But it's a great way to stay in front of people even if, they're not actively going to your website or something like that. And then make sure you're following up a lot. So this is retargeting. This is kind of the bread and butter of what Feather does. And so this is just showing up with ads after someone has visited your website. And so you can get very segmented with this as well. If somebody comes to any page on your site, you can serve them ads, but we recommend getting a little bit more personalized than that. So if somebody comes to your homepage or your donate page even for the first time ever, so maybe you've run an affinity campaign, you're serving some awareness ads, you get in front of a bunch of new people, and some of them click through to learn more about you. You want to retarget them, right? You want to serve them ads after they leave, but you don't want to say, hey, don't forget to give, right? Because maybe they didn't indicate yet that they are going to give, or maybe they visited your About Us page and not your Donate page. And so that would be a great chance to serve them an ad that talks a little bit more about why they should give, or an impact statement, right? Like hunger is a reality for 1 in 13 people, or even like a dollar impact statement, like we were talking about earlier, right? However many dollars can feed a child for a month, something like that. And so just kind of reminding them of this is what you can do with our organization. And then if somebody comes back and visits your donate page or a higher intent page, right? A membership page, a donate page, an event registration page, something like that, and leaves without converting, then you can retarget those visitors with ads that are even more targeted around what they just did. So that's going to be more of a bottom of the funnel kind of messaging, right? Where you're saying, hey, like we know that you have something in your shopping cart, right? You're interested, follow through. Go ahead and take your wallet out and, seal the deal. And so with donations, you can do the whole typical cart abandonment thing. Hey, did you forget something? Don't forget, like, um, appeal to the emotions in whatever way you can and kind of get creative with that language again, but really driving that sense of urgency. If you have, deadlines for a campaign, if there's a gift match campaign that's about to run out, you can make sure to mention that, right? In those sort of bottom of the funnel campaigns where you know that someone wants to give, but they just haven't yet. It's like, okay, come on, like it needs to happen. So driving urgency in whatever way you can is important. And then when it comes to email, keep doing what's working. Again, email is a very high performance channel for nonprofits. And so by no means should you stop doing what's working. Definitely A/B test wherever you can. A/B test your subject lines, try out different things to see what works, and make sure that you have a platform that allows you to track conversions and track all of the metrics that you want to be tracking when it comes to email. And so one of the cool things about Feather is that you're sort of tracking everything in one place. So you might be running some digital ads, some display ads, right? Some retargeting, doing some advertising on Meta, and using tracked links to track all of the different direct mail efforts that you're running. And you can track your email as well in the same place. And so you can kind of see within one general project or campaign what channels brought in the most conversions, the most money, and really get a sense of what's working for you and what's not. This is just a quick example of what a Feather email can look like. This is from Japan America Society of Washington, D.C. Just a really pretty email as a great example of what you can build. This countdown timer obviously is at 0 because the event is passed, but this is another really cool little thing you can insert to drive that urgency. Um, okay. And then again, I'm going to talk a little bit about optimizing social medias and best practices for that. And so, just as a reminder, when you're talking to millennials and Gen Z, you want to sort of be aware of what platforms they're spending time on. So, with millennials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and you don't need to do all of this. You probably can't do all of this, but this is more just for awareness and kind of seeing like if you want to pick and choose what you're doing, where you're spending your time, slightly longer attention span, more content variety, right? And then for Gen Z, it's going to be TikTok, Snapchat, shorter attention span, prefer shorter content, and then making your language brief, memorable, leveraging influencers if you can. I've got a little bit more on that. So TikTok for nonprofits is the nonprofit hub that TikTok offers, and so you can actually just visit that hub and see what they have. They've got inspiration, examples to help you with when it comes to your organic efforts on TikTok. And then with TikTok, I would say be realistic about what you can do. If you have, for example, like a really young person on your team who has the capacity to create videos and keep the TikTok account going, great. If you feel like that's not necessarily realistic for you right now, do something else. Focus on Instagram, Facebook. We know people spend time on Facebook. I think when it comes to choosing the platform where you're going to reach the most people, you do have Gen Z on Facebook. Millennials definitely still have Facebook, and Gen X and Boomers are there. So Meta is really kind of the main place you should focus if you can only really focus on one. But yeah, these are just some ideas if you are interested in kind of venturing out and getting started with a new platform. And then when it comes to influencer marketing for nonprofits, I think it can seem kind of inaccessible, but you should start with your community, start with micro influencers that have similar values and audience members. So micro influencers are people who have more closer to between 5,000 and 50,000 followers. So not the Mr. Beasts of the world, right? But smaller people who have an audience that's engaged, who trusts them, and similar values, and they might be aligned with your cause and willing to engage with you and partner with you. So this can be a great way to get on more people's radar and also just build that trust implicitly because they're hearing it from somebody that they already trust. And then I mentioned this on a webinar a few months ago, and I actually asked in the chat for ideas around influencer marketing just to see like what nonprofits are actually doing to make this happen. So I wanted to include just a couple of examples of ways that people are connecting with influencers. So Tomoko from Next Stop Theater Company said that they invite influencers to shows. So this is obviously a theater, performing arts organization. There are a few theater going influencers in the DC area, and our marketing director reached out to them personally and offered them a ticket to come and see one of our shows. So if you are a performing arts organization or an organization that has events or something that an influencer could actually come to and engage with, right? Eat your food, engage in whatever activities for free. You could offer that in exchange for them maybe doing a quick video or sharing something with their followers with a link to donate to your cause. And then Amy from Kesem said that for influencer marketing, we had a contractor help out, and they did a combination of direct outreach to relevant folks that our staff was already aware of and vetting folks through a platform called Collabster. So I thought it was great that she actually provided a platform that's helpful. I included the link here. So once you get the deck tomorrow, you can actually click on the link there, or feel free to type it in your search bar now just to check it out. But she said that this is great for actually connecting with those micro influencers. All right, and then we're about to wrap up. So let me, before I get into this, just because I know people are going to start to hop off, I'm going to run a quick poll, if it'll let me. No, it's not showing me that option. Hmm. All right, well, for starters, just in case I can't get this launched. All right, I found it. Zoom changed again. Um, all right, so if you are interested in getting a more personalized walkthrough of Feather to learn how you can do some of what we've talked about today, go ahead and drop a yes in the poll, and I will hook you up with somebody who can meet with you, hear about your pain points, your specific needs at your organization, and talk through some of the campaigns that might be a good fit for you, and more. So obviously we offer email tools, social media, digital advertising, digital outreach in general. And we're working on tons of new tools and features all the time to make Feather an even more well-rounded digital outreach platform. So, yeah, if you're looking for ways to get in front of new donors, get in front of past donors, um, get people to come to your events, we can help with that. So I'll leave that up and running. All right, so if anyone has to hop, totally understand. I know we've only got 2 minutes left, so thanks to everyone who joined. I'm going to quickly run through this section, and again, you will receive this deck after, so you can go through this later if you'd like, if it's helpful. This particular part, because it's a little dense. There's lots of numbers and information here, but I think it's helpful just to kind of have some benchmarks to work with. So when it comes to social media algorithms do prioritize friends, family, personal connections over businesses. And so you can boost your organic posts, and that jumps you up to a little bit more visibility than just regular organic posting. But you're going to have the best reach and the best flexibility when it comes to like format and like control over the ads if you're actually running paid ads. And if you're trying to focus on the cusp of generations, right? Like we were talking about, you might not have capacity or time to do all of these different campaigns on all of the platforms. Um, focus on this age range. And so you're going to have the best luck on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook because these are the networks that millennials and Gen Z have in common. And like I said, Gen X and boomers are also spending a lot of time on Facebook, YouTube, and some are on Instagram. And then when it comes to return on ad spend for fundraising ads, you're going to see less than $1 return for social media, right? Because this is better for awareness. So when it comes to awareness advertising, you're going to just have a lower ROI than the retargeting campaigns where you're actually reaching warmer audience members and people who visited your site and who have indicated that they're interested, right? You're going to see much higher returns on that side, bottom of the funnel campaigns. A reminder to utilize UTM codes when you can. And yeah, always be sending people to your site, tracking how they got there. And then for search and display ads, the click-through rate for acquisition is should be around 0.2 to 0.3%. So aiming for that. CPM of 286, around that is the average that I pulled from what we've seen. And then return on ad spend for search retargeting or for search display, you're going to see, sorry, search retargeting, you're going to see a return of about $2.23, and for display, a little over $1. So, um, yeah, you'll see that you get, again, bigger returns here than with social. These are the channels where you're just going to see a lot more action and conversions. And so the combination of both is important. You want to be driving awareness and getting in front of new people, getting them to come to your site, but then continuing to run campaigns that are compelling and more personalized as they engage with you further to drive those conversions and actually drive the ROI, right? That can then help you prove that you need more budget to invest in these efforts, and that your efforts are fruitful. So yeah, having the right tools in place is key. And then remember that your best benchmark is beating yourself. So I think it can, be a little daunting to see all of the different platforms and what everyone else is doing. And so don't compare yourself with all of the other nonprofits and all of the for-profit companies. Just kind of see how can we do better this year than last year? What are a couple of new things that we can try? So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks everyone for engaging in the chat. Really appreciate it. And then yeah, be on the lookout tomorrow for the deck and the recording. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.